I'm going to have tons of those stories of like, oh, when I was your age, I used to have to shovel 4 feet of snow every day before school at 5 in the morning and when it was -10.
Sure. This podcast is all about you and your journey in music. And we'll talk about obviously the new song. I love the video you guys did.
Thanks, man.
For Nice and Easy. It's hilarious.
Thank you. Yeah, it was super fun.
Cool. So we always take it all the way back to the beginning. If that's cool with you, I want to know where you were born and raised.
Oh man, yes. So I was born in Los Angeles, California.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes, sir. I was born in LA, in Culver City to be exact.
Okay.
And then my parents divorced when I was around 2-ish.
Okay.
And my mom moved me to Minnesota to raise me.
You're raised in Minnesota, but you're born in Los Angeles. Okay.
Yeah, pretty much. I split my time because I would still have to go back to LA like 5 times a year to see my dad.
Okay.
So yeah. Between Los Angeles and Minneapolis.
Wow, that's quite a different, I'm sure, a little different culture shock between the two. Dude, I'm from Southern California, but I could imagine Minneapolis is a bit different.
Minneapolis is rad. Honestly, it's pretty cool. It gets really cold. Mm-hmm. It's definitely, I kind of feel like, especially as I'm getting older, I'm definitely going to have a lot of those. I'm going to have tons of those stories of like, oh, when I was your age, I used to have to shovel 4 feet of snow every day before school at 5 in the morning and when it was -10.
Sure.
Since then, obviously it still snows and gets really cold there, but global warming is real, man, because the winters are way more mild now. When you look at like Minnesota now, it's like you'll have certain winters there where it doesn't even snow that much.
Interesting.
Yeah, it still gets really cold and they do have a good amount of snow, but there are certain years where it's like barely anything, which is like unheard of. Because seriously, like every winter when I was growing up, I'm not even exaggerating, I'd have to go out and shovel 4 feet worth of snow. You'd wake up in the morning, there would be 4 feet of snow. It's insane.
Wow. And so you'd have to shovel it all out just to probably get to school?
Bro, you'd have to shovel it in multiple layers. Like, so you'd shovel because it would be too heavy just to go to the bottom and move it. So you'd have to go like one layer at a time. And then, and it'd be like -5 degrees outside. It was insane.
How do you even get out of your door? Just.
Yeah, you have to keep a shovel right next to your door. You like push out and then you like start. You have to wear like big boots and snow pants.
Oh my gosh. I never had to rough it like that. I mean, like I said, I grew up in San Diego and it was like, if it was 40 degrees, people would freak out.
Oh, dude, my whole family in LA would make fun of me. They'd be like, dude, so cold out there. You're shoveling snow. You sound like you're from the country. You got like a country accent. It sounds weird. That's why now, like when people talk to me, they're like, dude, you don't have a Minnesotan accent at all. I'm like, yeah, I think like I had to get rid of it super young because my California family would make fun of it. But then when it's pretty cool because I feel really fortunate because Authors does pretty well in the Twin Cities. So we get to like tour through Minneapolis like 2 to 4 times a year.
That's cool.
So I'll get to see all my friends and we'll get to go out. And my band says that when I'm out with my hometown friends drinking, the Minnesotan accent comes out.
I was just going to ask you that. Does it come back when you're around family and friends?
They say it does.
Okay.
We'll start doing we'll really start. Yeah, let me get a Bud Light over here. And, we're going to go crazy tonight. We're going to have some drinks and we're just going to tear it up and have a real good time. Maybe we'll take a boat out on the lake later and really just have a party.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So how did you get into music? I did see that you guys started the band at Berkeley. So obviously,
yeah, man,
grew up in the music
world. Both my parents were heavy music lovers. My dad was a player. He played guitar. So he actually built me my first guitar and he taught me how to play it, which was cool.
Wow. What type of electric guitar?
It was an electric. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Hybrid of all these different parts that he put together. And then, he painted it himself. And then we actually went out and got a Megadeth poster. They had, like that sick skeleton as their mascot. And we laid the Megadeth poster over the top of the guitar. And then he like laminated it in. So I don't think
Really? Do you have it?
Yeah, I do have it. I don't think it's at this house.
But I'm glad that you still kept it. That's cool.
Yes, I do have it. I don't think it really plays, but it's dope looking.
Yeah. Have you ever had, like, I bet you're one of the only people that has a Megadeth guitar.
Maybe actually. I should reach out to him.
You should.
The Megadeth guitar. I have this cool old picture of me when I was like, I don't know, maybe like 6 or 7 years old holding the Megadeth guitar. It's very cute.
That's cool. So dad taught you how to play?
Dad taught me how to play. That was pretty much it. Never took any lessons outside of my dad. And then, yeah, man, just started playing in bands in like 7th grade, like middle school time. And then once I got into high school, kept doing the band thing, but then did a lot of theater, musical theater, a lot of choir stuff. And it just kind of kept evolving and taking over my life. And I would slowly pick up like musicals around Minneapolis and then playing in different bands at the same time. So I would like pick up more of that. And then I would start dropping classes in high school. So it'd be like, I was really into knowing what the bare minimum that I could take in high school was to graduate.
Okay.
Yeah.
You could work on your extracurriculars.
Yeah, I wouldn't even work on extracurriculars. Just be like, cool, let's just start weeding out classes. So it was like, okay.
Well, you're obviously doing the theater. So
I guess that's extracurricular.
So I mean, that kind of extracurricular.
Yeah, I was doing a lot of that. So I would be doing like 2 plays at 2 musicals at a time usually.
Wow.
Then I had 2 bands going, and so that was a good amount of stuff to keep me busy. Yeah, I guess that's it. And then I had like a small group choir that would perform at like restaurants. So that's extracurricular.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. The point where
tell me about the group choir. That's fascinating.
Choir was cool. I mean, I did the main choir in the high school, and then I excelled pretty quickly in that. So it was like I got into like the top school choir my sophomore year, and then from there was like a more, I don't know, I guess elite small group choir, which that was extracurricular. So then I did that starting sophomore year as well. And that was super fun, man. We would do like competitions and sing at restaurants and just kind of go around the community and do whatever. I don't know.
When did you find out that you could, I mean, obviously you can sing extremely well. When did you realize that was a thing that you could do?
Like 6th grade.
Okay.
Maybe 6th grade, I think. That was when I started like not as much. I kind of like gave up on playing guitar. I would still play, but I stopped focusing on guitar and then started moving more into like, like I can write songs with this. And that was when I did like singer-songwriter vibe.
Okay, so you started writing songs that early on, 6th grade.
Yeah.
Wow.
Cool. Yeah. So
and would you play, like, did you go to coffee shops or anything where your mom or dad take you out to do that stuff?
Yeah, dude. I did a bunch of that. I did more of it starting in 9th grade.
Okay.
Like coffee shops and stuff. 7th, 8th grade, I did like talent shows and like things like that, which was cool though, because we were still like, entering it with a punk band. Like we were pretty punk at the time.
Okay.
We were like covering Lagwagon, which I
really.
Yeah, we awesome. Did. We did cover Lagwagon at my 7th grade talent show, which is crazy.
No way. What'd you do? Like violins?
What was the other one? May.
Stoking the Neighbors?
No, there's that other. It was the other.
I know what you're talking. I can't think of the name of it.
May 16th.
May 16th. Yes, there you go.
This one.
Yeah.
Which is crazy because I'm not like super young. I'm 34. So I was covering that song when I was in 7th grade, which is funny because it dates how old that song is, I guess.
Yeah, it's wild. I'm 36 and I remember like listening to that song around the same when I was in like middle school.
Had to have been on the Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 soundtrack.
I believe it was.
Had to have been.
Yeah, I got a lot of my music from skateboard
Yeah,
videos.
same, man. So yeah, it was either in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater or it was in skate videos that I had. Like I had all like the 411
411s.
like
Yeah.
411 VHS tapes.
Sure.
And I had like the original CKY skate videos
Mm-hmm.
on cassette, So it was like before Jackass was even a thing.
Yeah, it was the CKY videos with Bam.
CKY 2K, yeah.
Yes.
Oh.
That was when they like threw the orange soda in the guy in like the drive-through window. That's the one I always remember him doing.
Yeah, and I think we would even try because I guess it was probably in Tony Hawk Pro Skater as well, but that was the big CKY.
Oh yeah.
Everyone, that was like, when you played guitar back then, that was everyone's favorite song to try to learn on guitar.
The go-to.
Which was cool because we got to play Warped Tour in 2017.
Uh-huh.
And CKY was on it.
Oh, rad.
And they were super cool. And we were all too nervous to go talk to them because they were way more tough and badass than we were. So, but we ended up, they gave us like a bunch of free merch. And I guess one of the days I wasn't on the bus. I was off doing something else, but my bass player Dave was the only one on the bus. And one day at the Philadelphia show, obviously.
Okay. Yeah.
Jess Margera, who's the drummer for CKY, he comes on the bus and he goes, "Hey, what's up?" He comes on our bus and he's like, "Hey, my parents are here and they're huge fans of you guys." Or he's like, "My daughter's here," or something like that. He's like, "My family just wants to say hi." So they had April and Phil Margera came on the bus and said hi to Dave. I don't think Bam came on, but
that's so cool.
Still
what a huge
fun.
Moment. Yeah, that's huge.
Fun. Yeah, man.
That's awesome.
But anyways, so yeah, grew up on stuff like that.
Punk rock and talent shows. Yeah. And then when did you said you started doing singer-songwriter stuff around 9th grade?
That was when I started really playing out. And yeah, like between, like solo performances at coffee shops, like Battle of the Bands in the area, booking, my own shows, with my bands. And that was cool, man. Like touring around them. Like the Midwest scene.
Was it more of the American Authors vibe, or was it? Did you?
It was like I had one band that was kind of like we wanted so hard to be the Strokes at this point.
Okay.
Because now we're getting into like 2001.
Yeah.
Like 2001, 02 was, domination of the bands.
Yeah, the Hives, the Strokes,
the Strokes. Yeah,
the Vines.
That was when the Killers came out.
Oh yeah,
around that time, maybe a little later. Actually, they were a little later, but so the bands were big. So my band was called The Primaries, and
that's a good name.
It was pretty good, right?
That is a really good name.
Thank you. And the Primaries were pretty good.
Okay.
But we would tour all around, and then I also had another band called Wasted on Envy, and as you could probably tell from that name, that was bordering more on the emo side.
Sure.
So I had Wasted on Envy. I had the Primaries. Oh, keep in mind the first band back in 7th grade was called No Lifeguard on Duty.
Well, that's a solid name too.
I like that name,
dude. That's good. I'm surprised no one's used that.
I know, it's crazy, right? No Lifeguard on Duty.
Like, you need to take that as like
that's the dopest ska revival band you've ever heard of.
That really is. That's such a good name.
Best ska revival band out there. So so I just did that throughout high school and got busy. I pushed the school thing so hard to the point where my senior year, I just didn't even really take classes anymore. And I got into this internship program where I got to work at a recording studio instead of going to actual school, which was cool.
That's huge.
Yeah, it was nice, man. So, and that only took up like 2 days a week, maybe, like 2 or 3 days a week. So
did you learn how to like record bands there, or?
I was kind of already doing it at my little home studio. I'd been doing it for a while, but it was great to like be in that environment. It was a big studio.
Sure.
Because it was probably like 04, 05 now. So it's like, I mean, this was a big, fat studio, massive boards and stuff. So it was a lot of information to take in, but it was great to be around it. We did a lot of like sounds, like the music and the sound effects for movie trailers.
Really?
Yeah, for like commercial work.
Uh-huh.
So, but it was great to be around that. And then I only really applied. It was like go to college for, because Minnesota's a big college. Like
Mm-hmm.
you go to school, like at least where I was, if you live in my community, it's like you're going to college. That was
No questions asked.
there was like no questions asked. It's like even if you can't afford college, which I couldn't, it's like you figure out how to go.
Okay.
So, um,
So Berkeley, was that the one school that you
that was
really
it.
wanted to go to? Was that the only one you applied for,
The
or?
only one I applied to.
Oh, wow.
I made the decision because it was between, I knew I was either going to do theater or like music, like band stuff.
Okay.
And I chose band stuff. And I was going to go to the music school in Minneapolis at the time. There was like a university. I don't even think it's there anymore actually now, but there was a university out there called McNally Smith, which
Mm-hmm.
was doing some cool stuff that I was going to go to. And Berkeley was kind of the long shot one, but I applied and I got in. So I figured out a way. I finagled some money
Mm-hmm.
and figured out a way to go.
Did
And
you go in for theater, or did you go in as a
no,
singer?
yeah, just singing,
Okay.
like rock band, singing rock stuff. I really just went to find a band, like to find other musicians to start a band. That was really the reason. So,
Okay. Did you have to do an audition, like a vocal audition?
yeah, you have to audition, and you have to, you know, send all your demos and all your crap and videos and all that stuff. And it was cool, man. I went for like one full-time semester. I liked it. I started going part-time because I couldn't afford full-time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then met the guys and authors, and then we started touring super heavily, just like putting it together ourselves. Like we weren't getting like massive tours or anything, but like, we were all pretty like-minded, and we started writing music and, saved up money to buy a van, saved up money to record an EP, and then we booked our own shows and would just kind of, we were in Boston now at this point,
Mm-hmm.
and just started touring around New England. New England was rad because it was really easy to hit a bunch of different territories really, really quickly. So it's like
Because you're in kind of a.
you're like 2 hours away from, all these major cities.
Mm-hmm.
So we would just, kind of like weekend warrior it, um, whatever. So, and then, dude, we
And
did that for a long time.
yeah, you guys are the Blue Pages at this point.
Yeah, we were the Blue Pages, and dude, it was seriously just like constant. Yeah, like so I only really did a few semesters at Berkeley and dropped out just to focus on the Blue Pages, and we were playing a lot of shows.
Mm-hmm.
And so just between writing, recording, networking, booking shows, playing shows, going out, like our biggest thing that we would do, and I think it's always important because all of these things are obviously important when you want to do whatever. But for us, it was so huge for us to book our own tours. That was the grind back then, like the MySpace was big, but like you didn't have as many platforms to really mingle online.
Yeah, like reach out to
Yeah, you
people.
couldn't really reach out as well as you can today. So back then, it really was about getting in a band and touring. So what we would do, this was our strategy.
Okay.
Okay, we would go out on MySpace and we would find the bands in the area that were just a little bit bigger than us, right? So we weren't going for like the Fallout Boys who were like massive at the time, but we were going out for like the hometown heroes in New England, like the people that were, they could play like a 300 cap room.
Wow. Sure.
So then we would hit them up and we would not only try to get on shows of theirs, which is, that's an obvious, but what we would do is we would reach out to groups like this and we would say, hey, we'll book you a tour. Okay. We'll book you a full, like 2-week tour, and you'll get all the money. Okay. We'll book you a tour with guarantees and you take all the money, but you have to let us open. And
wow.
And yeah.
So you almost had to like somewhat like tour manage, or not tour manage, but be like your own booking agency.
Exactly. And we would do it because these smaller bands didn't have booking agents, like they could crush in these like, they could crush these smaller shows in a market.
Uh-huh.
Like they didn't really have that stuff. And so it's like us and our buddy at the time, Jared, we would put this stuff together. And it was huge for us, man, because that's kind of how it got us like, oh, whoa, the Blue Pages are touring with this group and that group, and they're doing this stuff. So we would put all that together ourselves.
How would you get these these venues to agree to guarantees? I mean, you guys must have had some business background as well, not only
like big guarantees, but we had a couple friends that were helping us, and they were small guarantees, and the whole thing was we weren't taking any of it. We would just rely on ourselves to be like, okay, cool. Well, once we get to the show, we know we'll be able to hustle our merch, and if we sell X amount of T-shirts, this could be a break-even scenario for us. So that was what it was. They weren't high guarantees, but we gave all the guarantee to the bigger band.
Got you.
Put it all together, and yeah, it was cool, man, because it ended up working out in a way of when you had these bigger artists, these artists would have like small to large record deals, or they would actually have like true management, or they'd be working with bigger people. And then those people would come out to the concerts and see us. So,
right. So you were able to put yourselves in front of people that could advance the band.
Right. It was more of like, obviously it was fun and experience and building a fan base, but it was also networking with all these people that would be more enticed to go out and see the bigger band.
Got you.
Yeah.
And then obviously that worked out. Like, what was the first victory there with the Blue Pages?
The victory, there were a lot of victories with that, because that segued into our New York life, because once we did got a few of those under our belt, we did start talking more with like industry people, like guys and girls and just people in general that were working in labels, booking agents at management companies who were our age. And then they would meet us from these shows and they'd be like, oh, these guys are cool. They party and like, they're just like good dudes. So then they would start inviting us out like, hey, there's this industry event this night. It's in New York though. So then we started taking the Funghua bus, which is, I hope it's still around. It's the most rad bus that connects New York to Boston, but you don't have to go to the train station or the bus station. You pick it up on a street corner in Chinatown. And
really?
And it was only $15 each way. And you don't have to book in advance or anything. You just show up, get on, give them $15 cash, call it a day.
And you go from where? Boston to New York?
Yeah, we go from Boston to New York, which is like 4 hours. So it started turning into the kind of thing where we were going to New York now every weekend.
Okay.
So that was like the next thing. Okay, we booked these tours. Those were done. Now we're like in with this crowd of these different like lower level execs and all these people that were our age. And they were just now friends of ours. And they'd be like, hey, you should come like, Gym Class Heroes is doing an event at this Lower East Side bar with free booze Thursday night. You guys should come. And it'd be like, okay, cool. Funghua bus, boom, spend the night in New York, crash on a buddy's floor, go back to Boston. We started doing this pretty much every weekend.
Okay.
Which then got to the point of like, oh, you know what? I think we've outgrown Boston. We have a lot of things that are bringing us to New York right now. I think we should just make the move there. We were also working with a buddy of ours who was recording us and producing us in New York. So we were going a lot to work with him. So shout out Christian Mettis. He's still an incredible producer. He does all the Lovely the Band stuff now.
Really? That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, keep in mind too, like Mitch and Lovely, they were our peers at the time. So when we were playing, so Mitch of Lovely the Band, he was just going by Mitchie C at the time. And the Blue Pages were Mitchie C's backup band.
Wow, really?
Yeah. So we all came up. So this was getting into this next chapter in this Brooklyn thing. Like we were meeting all these people there. So it's like we were meeting these people that actually worked in the industry business side. Then we were meeting other bands. So we moved to Brooklyn. Great. And aside from, we did play shows, but it was more the networking that I think not only like paid off with great opportunities, but also just, created, forever friendships. I'm still super close with all these people that I came up with in New York and Boston. I got Boston friends too, but it's more like the New York people are not only my friends, my everyday friends, but they're my everyday peers.
Okay.
You
And
know?
is that what dragged the attention or drew the attention at this point of like Mercury Records and the whole like
Um,
American authors thing happening, or?
not yet.
Okay.
We were just like really hitting the scene hard. We were just like out every night. And I think it was just a combination of everything. It was like a combination of like we'd released a ton of music by that point.
Yeah, you had a few EPs out right
We had
under
a
the
few
Blue
EPs
Pages.
under the Blue Pages. We put a couple tours together ourselves. We've been playing around a lot. We knew a lot of people in the industry now, just as friends.
Hmm.
So it's like our name was kind of going around. And then, so here's where it all ties back together, is where one of the tours we put together when we were back in Boston was with a band called Down with Webster.
Okay.
And they were signed to Motown Records. And the head A&R at Motown Records was Shep Goodman. So Shep Goodman then in New York, he saw us on the Down with Webster tour. And then when we moved to New York, he's like, I'm in New York, we should meet up. And so then he was kind of just like meeting with us. Maybe we'd be a good fit for Motown, but that didn't really come up. And shortly then, Motown folded. So then Shep was out of a job. So then he went back to producing and writing full time, which was kind of his first gig before he went into Motown.
Okay.
So then Shep was like, hey, I'm back to writing and producing full time. I want you to be the first band that I really develop.
Wow.
Yeah. So then we did a production deal with Shep and his partner, Aaron, shout out. And we did a production deal with them and just started writing and working on stuff. He was kind of like, at some point, he was like, Blue Pages have been around for a really long time, and kind of like everybody in the industry kind of knows that name. And I think it's kind of like worn out. So maybe you guys should change your name. So that's where American Authors then came in. And then
Oh, so it wasn't like a label. It wasn't like the Blue
oh, no,
Page is already a thing. It was like you
no,
guys, let's
it
just
was the band.
revamp.
Yeah, we had just been in the scene for now a while, and it was kind of getting to the point where everyone knew us. And it
Hmm.
was just like, and not in a bad way by any means, but just in a way of like, oh yeah, like when you get a demo that comes across your table, you're like, oh yeah, the Blue Pages. Oh yeah, I've been hearing their stuff now for years.
Right.
So you kind of like, you don't get as excited when it's like, hey, I have this brand new band you've never heard of. They're called this. It's like no one cares that it's the same people.
Right.
And that's an important. And you know what? I think there's a lot of merit to that too,
Mhm.
because I love. I see so many. I now see it with solo artists doing that too,
Mhm.
where like, like one of my. I really like that new artist Ty Verdes.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I know he was going by a different name for a really long time, and then I think it just kind of got, whatever he needed a change for whatever reason. Then he just came up with this new name, and boom, like took
Yeah, took off.
like yeah, like I know like Tessa Violet did the same thing. She was going
Yeah.
for like another thing that was big on YouTube or whatever, and then changed.
Yeah, she's great. I interviewed her for this podcast. She's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah. I found her just because Lovely did that song with her. So,
Oh, yeah, yeah,
but so I think there's merit to that.
yeah. Mhm.
I think there's also another thing to be said about not switching up too much, because I have plenty of friends that would go from, they bounce around too much. Like every 3 months, it's like, okay, 3 months later, new band name, 3 months later, new band name, 3 months later, they're back to the old name. Then 3 months later, they're doing a whole new style of music. And then it's kind of like, hey, I will say one thing with American Authors or Blue Pages or whatever, we stuck to it for a long time.
Mhm.
It was a long time. I mean, it was essentially like everything that I kind of just talked about went from like essentially 0607 to 2012,
Okay.
and it was like
Yeah.
nonstop for those, I guess, 6 years.
Mhm. And then were you American authors very long before stuff happened, or it was it kind of like when
We
you
were
did the name
not super
change?
long. It wasn't
Okay.
super long, but we did like put out two songs that did not sound like what people know American Authors as now. We put out a couple songs as American Authors that they didn't do anything. So
Was until what, Believer, that some
Yeah, believe
traction
it.
happened.
Yeah, that was like the first one.
And
And that was a fluke, man. It's a fluke
why do you say that?
because it is 100%. It was, we wanted to be at this point now, we had now gone from like pop rock to kind of like trying to be like Fall Out Boy, that kind of emo.
Mm-hmm.
Then now we're pushing into like we want to be Coldplay really bad.
Okay.
Okay, like epic rock, whatever. So now we want to be Coldplay really bad. And things are kind of dying down. Like we're kind of feeling the 6 years, right? So we're not writing every day anymore.
Mm-hmm.
We're playing like once a month in New York. We're really only going up to write with Shep and Aaron like once a month.
Okay.
So it's kind of starting to slow, but no one quits because I think we've always just had too much pride to give up on something. So we're still putting in the work when the time comes up and whatever. So we go up and we're writing with Shep one day, and we're showing him some songs, and he goes, everything that you guys are showing me, it's so sad sounding, man. It's just so slow and sad. Can you just like you just got to write a happy song. Just write something happy. And I'm like, all right, Shep, check it out. How about this? And I just pick up a guitar and I play the riff for Believer. And that was just like the first thing that came out.
Wow.
And he goes, yo, that riff is dope. Like, you should just sing that for the melody. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And so now I'm just like scatting, like, I'm just a believer. And he goes, yo, did you just say I'm a believer? And I'm like, I don't know. And he's like, yo, that's a dope lyric. Wait, let's keep that. And then from there, we like built out the track, and
Wow.
which essentially set up the American Authors sound.
Interesting. Wow. So it was just him
Well,
just kind of suggesting the
yeah,
like, let's make this a little bit more happy.
it was
You
him
know,
taunting. It wasn't even let's make whatever you have more happy. It was just like, yo, you guys write too many sad songs. Write something happy for once.
right.
Oh, and it was like the first stupid riff that came out. So, and then from there, it wasn't even like, oh, yeah, this is the sickest riff ever. It was just like, hey, let's just keep pushing this and let's try something else and let's put this on it and let's do this. It was just like adding all little these little elements that were kind of like popping off in the alternative scene at the time.
Because Believer did well on, like, you guys got on the radio and all of that with that track. Was that, tell me about that experience? That must have been cool to hear yourself on the air and all that.
Yeah, Shep sent it out. Like once we had like a demo of it, and this is where I think the name change. Well, no one would have known the Blue Pages at this point, but the name change was good because American Authors really didn't have anything. So Shep was able to just, he hit up his homie at Alt Nation, and he's like, yo, I'm working with this new band. They're called American Authors. Check out this demo that we just did. And Regan at Alt Nation was like, I love this. You should finish. It wasn't even finished. There was no bridge. And he's like, you got to finish this because I'm going to start playing it next week. So it was like, cool. So we finished the song, got it mixed in like a day, sent it over. And then he's like, yo, you're going to want to release this because I'm going to start spinning this in like heavy rotation. So we're like, cool, we're going to release it. We need another song. And then Best Day was the next song that we wrote, kind of like in a similar way as Believer. And we released it as like an A-B side like the next week. So
the two huge songs. I mean, obviously, Best Day is so big.
Yeah, and Best Day was kind of a similar thing where Shep was like, hey, this is pretty cool. Let me send it to my friend who does licensing for like TV and commercials.
Okay.
And Lynn Grossman, shout out, because she got us our very first sync, and it was the Lowe's commercial for Best Day of My Life, and it was like massive.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's what was it like seeing the commercial, like hearing your song in a commercial?
Awesome. And so yeah, at that point it was like, oh man, now we got like this commercial and then Believers on the radio, and it's like, wow, this is really, really cool. And then this was all kind of like coming together in like November, December. So then it was kind of like, all right, guys, everyone's leaving for the holidays, but come January, we're gonna, be taking some meetings with labels and whatnot. So yeah, we got in and signed with Mercury Island, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was
And
cool.
then from there, I mean, obviously, what did they do for you right away? I mean, with the huge song on the
Um,
air and a
it was cool.
obviously a huge song in a commercial, like
Dude, it just snowballed from there. It was like cool, pushing Believer to alternative radio. We got on like our first actual tour as American authors with Gold Coast and a silent film.
okay.
And yeah, made some lifelong fans, still have some of our greatest fans from that first tour. And then it just, kept snowballing, kept going and going and going. The shift really, because for the first like 2 or 3 tours, we were playing Best Day like fourth in the set.
Really?
Believer was like the end. That was like the big closing song because that one was like doing really well at alternative.
Mm-hmm.
And then we started to see Best Day's numbers just crush everything else. Like it was crushing Believer's numbers. And because it just started getting more and more TV commercials. Like it was getting commercials and placements and movie trailers and all these things. And it was just like, it was becoming so familiar to people in like, such a subconscious way
Mm-hmm.
that it became something where people started finding the song and buying it. And it just like overtook. And that's when the label made the shift of like, okay, pull Believer, we're going full force ahead with Best Day.
Yeah. And then when it crosses over, I'm from radio. I've done radio for 16 years. I mean, when it crosses over to CHR, it's like a whole different level, right? I mean, when it leaves alternative and now it's on top 40 radio.
Yeah, that was big. That was big, man. It was big. It was an interesting decision. And this might be jumping ahead, but I will always, it's one of the things that I'll think about. And I don't really have any regrets. Little regrets, but nothing big, nothing major. So this is not a regret, but one of the things that I'll think about was Best Day crossed over to Hot AC and Top 40 very quickly, essentially faster than we had time to really build a core fan base. And for people that don't know, Hot AC it's essentially Top 40, right? Essentially same, very similar. And those platforms are great because they have a huge listener base.
Oh yeah, they're the biggest.
Oh, they're huge.
Biggest stations in every market. The biggest station is the Hot AC station.
Right. And while alternative is much smaller listener base, what alternative is better known for is building a hardcore fan base, building a very heavy live fan base. So that's why you'll see artists like, whatever, like a 21 Pilots or
Portugal the Man is
like a Portugal the Man's even though they did cross over at some point, it's like Portugal the Man has spent years just having songs at like alternative radio or building up that underground following, and they can go out and they can play massive shows.
Yeah, but prior to even having
a radio song.
Yeah.
So you can see that, and you can see a certain success come from that, right? So that's one of the things that I'll think about. We crossed so fast from alternative, it can be hard for us going back to alternative now.
Sure.
We'll get a little bit of love in the alt world, but it's like, it's not going to be as much a certain artists that live and breathe alternative.
Right. That's interesting. Yeah. I mean, I would think like Simple Plan might be a good example of that as well.
Yeah, I could see that.
I mean, they did come over. They were playing on Kiss FM and stuff. And I mean, to go back and try to be like, knock on K-Rock's door, it might be a different story.
Right. So I would probably say another one that I know for a fact has a similar vibe is like Plain White Tees.
Oh, that's a great example.
Right. So Plain White Tees just crossed so heavily in their heyday, and I've talked with them. I know them quite well at this point, and it's like it's hard for them to go back to alternative, even though that's the thing. It's like now with where radio and music has shifted as a rock band, it's like you can really only go into alternative. It's really hard to go into other stuff now because everything's so pop focused now.
Sure.
So it can be a tricky thing for a rock band to be like, well, this is a rock song. To me, this is an alternative rock song. So there's no regret, and neither one is better than the other, I would say. But just for anyone listening that is thinking about any sort of branding, it was a life lesson that I learned from it of like, cool, we ditched alternative, and that was a decision that we live with now, which is fine. And I think if we didn't make that move at the time, it's like Best Day would, who knows what the song would have done.
Right. You could have, exactly.
It could have not performed as well as it did, and it could have died out, and, wouldn't have had the success from it.
Sure. And there's a lot of artists that have probably lived that, out, where it's like,
for sure,
they didn't want to pull the trigger on Hot AC, and then they kind of dissolved. Right.
Yeah. And so, but I will always think about that, and I'll always tell people when it comes to their own personal branding for whatever they're trying to do, just think about that stuff, So, yeah. And at this point, it's like, Hot IC's dope. Radio is what it is anyways. So it's like, I don't even know if any of that matters when it comes to playlisting. So
probably not anymore. Well, tell me about, after having a huge record right out the gate, was it kind of,
it was cool, man. It never felt that huge. It grew slowly, it wasn't like an overnight hanging kind of thing. It moved really slow. We worked it for a long time. Like, I think, the song came out in like 2013 and maybe didn't fully hit its full potential till like 2014.
Okay.
Mid 2014. So it's like the song had now been out for like a year and a half, and like it was such a slow build that it was really easy to stay in the moment with everything. There was never this moment of like, boom, overnight, now it's crazy, now there's just this chaos going on, and it's like there was never playing catch up, which I'm thankful for. It was just like living it in the moment, seeing the crowds slowly get bigger, seeing my schedule get busier, more opportunities come in. It was nice.
Sure. And with that, was it hard to follow? Having that, did you ever think when you had to put the second record out, like it's always the sophomore album? Was it like, okay, what do we do to follow this up? Like, was that
check it out. I'll fill you in on some insider details.
Okay.
It's important, we did a very, I don't know, maybe a lot of people do this, I don't know, but so when we followed the first album, we did it pretty quickly with Go Big or Go Home. And, it was kind of like first album had been out for like maybe not even a year. And then we dropped Go Big or Go Home, essentially first single off the sophomore album. And it got some syncs, it got some cool stuff. But we went to radio with it. And it actually was selling pretty well. And it was doing okay at radio. But because it wasn't performing the same way that Best Day did, the label and the team only gave it like a few weeks. They really only like worked it for a few weeks, and they were like, essentially, it was kind of like this thing of like, oh yeah, if we got to number 20 or whatever, top 20, but we just don't see the same reaction, so we're gonna pull the team from this one.
Yeah, they wanted like immediate like results.
Yeah. Yes, and it was not getting that. And Best Day didn't get that either. That was, again, that worked for a long time. So because we saw that, I think we kind of thought like, well, dang, it obviously wasn't working. So maybe people don't want that sound anymore. And, looking back on it now, it's like, oh, there's a million reasons why it wasn't necessarily not working. It was just taking longer. 2, that's fine if it wasn't working. Maybe the song was, I'll just say it right now, the song was not as good as Best Day. It's like, I personally, when I listen back to it, it's like, I wish I could have changed the verse lyrics to give the chorus more meaning. I could go back and pick that song apart. But at the time, we rushed into thinking, oh, people don't want this sound anymore. we need to change our sound. We need to follow up like what Walk the Moon's doing with like the pop, like super pop polished rock. We got to go into that, which was fine. But again, no regrets. I think there's a lot of great songs off the second album, and a lot of the songs got great swings. And actually, like Born to Run did fairly well at alternative.
There's a lot of big singles off that record.
It was okay.
Yeah,
it was not bad at all. So again, no regrets. But when I look at it now, I think we just needed 4 more go bigs that maybe had the right lyric, or at least a better lyric, or something that connected a little bit more in that same lane.
Sure.
So, and I would say that about the first album too. I would say off the first album, I think we needed 3 more Best Day and Believers. I think we missed out on, I don't think we had it. I think everyone was so stoked about the 2 singles just going at the same time on the first album that everyone was just like, sweet, album sounds great. Perfect.
Right.
Like second album was like, okay, cool. We need to keep up with what's going on in pop, which again was fine. It served its place. And then I think same thing with the third album. Third album going into it, it was like we needed 4-ish of the Best Day vibe, something in that lane. Because we went too much like, okay, cool. You know what? First 2 albums are what they are. Now's our time for a rebrand. Let's go back to alternative, tying into kind of what I was talking about, where it's like, let's go back to alternative. This can be that comeback of like, whoa, that's American Authors. I remember that band. Wow, they got this new cool sound, and these songs have so much depth to them.
Right.
And it pseudo worked. And I think the songs are amazing. They're like some of my favorite songs that I've ever been a part of. But again, you need the Eminem Ray LaMontagne, where every album has 2 I'm the Real Slim Shadys on it.
Sure.
Ray LaMontagne has every album. He's got at least 2. You are the best thing ever, or whatever. He's got like 2 of them, and the rest of them are like the slowest, saddest songs you've ever heard.
Right.
So, yeah, I look at all of those as great learning experiences. Because obviously, yeah, I'll be the first one to say it's like we haven't had anything that's gotten close to the success of Best Day yet. But we've had a lot of small victories along the way, and we've had a lot of great sync opportunity, a lot of fun collabs, a lot of awesome experiences and opportunities. And I think people will not know this about authors as much as we do because we live it. It's like we've never really had a break. We just kept going. Like, we do a ton of private shows. So between the private shows, doing full-time tours every summer, then getting back into the studio, never stopping the writing process.
Yeah, because you guys put out, Microphone and Best I Can. Those were right out the gate in 2020 too. Before.
Yeah, people don't know. Oh yeah, so people would be like, oh man, even like Dave, my bass player, will always say this. He gets so like, we need to be doing more all the time, and I'm fine with that. But it's like I gotta say to him, like, Dave, I don't think you realize this. We've released like 12 songs as American Authors in 2020, which people don't understand because we had like the 5-song EP that came out. Then we did like 5-ish cover songs for the remake of the Valley Girl movie. So we have like these 5 80s covers that came out.
Oh, really? I didn't know that either.
Oh, yeah. A lot of people don't know this. And then we had like remixes from the Counting Down EP. And then it's like, at that point, you're getting into like, I don't know, like 10 songs. So it's like, dude, even in this time, like, we've kind of always been releasing stuff, doing shows. I think that's why COVID was, obviously it wasn't nice. I don't like having this new virus around, but for American Authors, it was nice to have a forced break for us. Because I think if we didn't have the forced break, We would have kept doing things without really taking the time to think and make necessary changes.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it would have been quality.
Do you feel like Nice and Easy wouldn't have been what it is if it wasn't for that?
It completely would not have been. It would not have been, man. We needed to sit, make changes in this group. We went down to a trio,
Mm-hmm.
so which has made huge differences, and it gave us time to reflect and then get together as the three of us now. And now we're not on Island Records anymore, which is not a big deal because Island was always very, very cool. There was never any issues of like creative control or anything like that. I'll always say to people, I'll even have fights with my bandmates saying like, guys, Island was dope. They let us do whatever we wanted. They gave us money for music videos. They let us make whatever music videos we wanted. Like they didn't
That's
really
cool.
care. So like it was always fine. The only difference now is you don't have to talk to anyone for approval for like budgets or ideas on when or how you want to release or what you want to, really do, just on like a business level.
Right, because you have total creative control.
Yeah, it's like you can write a song this week and release it next week, whatever.
Sure.
But, so it gave us time to reflect, to sit, take the time. Now it's just the three of us. And for us to go, okay, look, we need to get back to, now we've done this. Now we have 3 albums and 1 EP.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's really shows a lot of range in those 3, which is cool. So now we're at this point where we need to go back to the basics. And we need to sonically go back to what we know works for this brand. And we're going to do it ourselves. We're going to do it in obviously like a new, cool, fun way. We're not just going to rip our old sound, but let's go back to that. Let's go back to this exciting music, up-tempo, fun, feel-good summer jams. We're going to keep the heart in there. We're going to keep the message alive, and let's do this in our own way.
Mm-hmm.
And so
I feel like you hit it out of the park with Nice and Easy.
Yeah, I'm so stoked on it, man. And we have like a full album that's really in the same lane as Nice and Easy.
That's amazing.
So,
well, tell me about how'd you.
It took time. We had to sit and think about it. It's like it's thinking and going, okay, cool. What are we doing? What's going to be genuine and what's going to feel right and what's going to really play to our strengths as far as TV, commercial, private shows, festivals. And then after that, then you can think about quote unquote hits.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like you have a hit on your hands already.
Maybe.
Right?
Maybe. If it's not, I'm stoked on it. So I think that's what it is at this point.
Yeah, it's a great song, great video. The video's hilarious. I mean, you have Mark McGrath in the song. Tell me about getting him.
Dude, and everything was just being done ourselves, man. We wrote the song ourselves. We produced the song ourselves. Yeah, when we were listening to it, and we were like, dude, how cool would it be? Like, we had this idea that we wanted to get like our heroes on songs and like these people that influenced our lives growing up and influenced us musically growing up, right? And we know a lot of these people now because we've done like private shows, NASCAR awards, state fairs, like these weird shows that will bring on a ton of different random artists. Mm-hmm. And we play with a lot of these people. So we kind of like have more of these relationships with these, I don't know, like with these like old school cats.
Yeah, well, you've been doing it for a long time.
We've been doing it for a long time.
Yeah, and you have success.
Right. But like we're closer now, like we have closer connections with these kinds of artists than we do with like, I don't know, Drake, It's like, I've never gotten close to a show where Drake's on the bill. So it's like, you know what I mean though?
Right.
It's like,
that'd be an interesting bill. Drake with opening up with American authors.
I love that. Yeah, the Clarks County State Fair.
Yeah, right.
So it's like, it's like, okay, cool. We have these connections. We're like, yo, let's try to get some legends on. So let's get some people that influenced us. And so this one, we were like, yo, this kind of has like a Sugar Ray vibe. Let's try to get Sugar Ray. So it was just me like, okay, I'm going to make it happen. I'm really going to do this. So I reached out to Sam Hollander, who then put me in touch with Mark because I knew they were buds. And then, yeah, sent Mark the song. He responded and he's like, dude, I love this. I want to be a part of it anyway. I had him come over to my home studio. I cut his vocals myself.
Wow.
Yeah, Matt put it all together, drummer Matt. And that was it, dude. And then it was literally like, because then once we showed that to like our management and stuff, then it was like, yo, this is sick. Let's put this out in 2 weeks. And we could. And then it was like, okay, cool. Let's put it out in 2 weeks. Okay, cool. I'm going to get my buddies to do the photos. And then I'm going to call my buddy to put together a music video treatment. So that was just like my homie Chris. He's like a genius, like music video director. He's so good.
Oh, it's amazing video.
And I'm like, hey, Chris, this is the budget, low budget. I'm like, this is the budget, which is pretty much nothing. But Mark McGrath's going to be in it. What can you put together? And he goes, okay, here's my concept. You're doing a bunch of stuff to relax and it all goes wrong. That's the concept. He's like, that's what I'll do for that budget. And I'm like, great. I trust you. And yeah, dude, we shot the majority of the video at my house in my yard. Mark came over, we got my girlfriend Bianca to style it all. And she's in the video. And then our other guitar player, ZT, he's in the video. We just so it was really just getting our friends and our family to come together and to do it all. And I think that was the really cool. It was a little bit more work than when you're with a label and they kind of just put it all together. But I think it led just from the music, the production, the feature to the video. I think it led for a much more genuine product.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's
fun.
It's a fun, feel good video. The song, it's perfect for the song. It's definitely like it has the summery vibe. It's like it's perfect for what's right now. People need
and
it.
Honestly, and for me, it feels really good. The whole thing, it just feels good and genuine, and I'm stoked on it. And so, look, I think the song will do what it needs to do. In these days, I know it's kind of cliche, but you could say, like, what is a hit single? Because you got some wacky things that I know I personally would never think were going to be the biggest hit in the world.
Right.
But it's like, it's insane. It's like, wow, this came out of nowhere. I'd love to see that. So you just don't know. You can't call it anymore. So I think with this, it's a genuine enough product where I think it'll do what I at least want it to do. And I'm stoked.
Yeah, man, I think it's a fantastic song. The video is amazing. I love the end with the golf scene. The Happy Gilmore swing at the end.
Oh,
that's so good.
I know, dude. And all that's just like, again, it's so DIY. Like, that was just because we were talking about the golf scene, like, oh, but it's going to be weird, like going onto a course and like filming on a course and whatever with no permits. So we just went to the park across the street.
Really?
Yeah. It was like, I was like, actually, I have this huge park. It's actually a cricket field. So that part of the park is a massive cricket field. So it's just huge green with the trees. And it was like, dude, let's just play golf there. It's big enough. It's all enclosed. And then even the water, there's like behind the trees and there's a lake. And then so we could just.
Oh, that's how you got the scene where he hits in the water.
Exactly. So he really hits it in this park because the park's big enough. Then we just went to the lake, which is a few steps away, and you just throw the ball in.
Okay.
Like, wow, it actually looks like a golf course.
It did. I'm shocked that it's not.
Yeah, but that's that DIY, man. No permits, no nothing, just going out.
I love it. And do you guys have more? Did you record more songs over the course of the quarantine, or are they all kind of in a similar vein? Do you have a new record on the way?
It's 2021, so not necessarily a new album yet, but we have enough songs for an album for sure. Cool. We got enough songs for a full album. We got some banging more collabs coming, which I'm really excited about. They should be out in the next handful of months. Yeah, I did a solo album at the beginning of quarantine, which was really fun. So I got
what was that like putting out was it?
I didn't put anything out yet.
You put it all together.
put it together because at the beginning of quarantine, I was kind of like done with authors, honestly. Like I was just kind of like, you know what? I need a break from this. I got to chill. So I think I'm going to take this time and work on this album, do something, just by myself.
Is it totally different than what you're doing with authors?
Pretty similar.
Oh, it's
Pretty
similar. Okay.
similar. It's like a little more like laid back, beachy vibes, like a little more, in that vein. Kind of like a
Okay.
little more like it's a little more like the Ty Verde Surfaces world.
Sure. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And do you have a plan for putting it out at some point?
Oh, whenever this author stuff cools down,
Okay.
that'll be it. Yeah, at this
Right.
point, because at that point when I was doing it, there was really authors was just nothing. So I was like, cool, this will be my time to like do this until we all feel really good about getting back together and doing new shit.
Okay.
And then we made the changes that needed to happen, and it all happened so quickly that then the three of us came together and was like, just clicked, and it was like, wow, we're like on a whole new level right now. Let's just do this. And then we started getting these features, like we started getting these collabs that were like being like, oh, this actually could have a lot of potential to like, turn some heads a little bit. So
I love it. I can't wait to hear the new stuff because I love the song with Mark McGrath. I think it's great, and the videos.
It's all similar because we're producing everything ourselves right now.
That's awesome.
Which I think has a lot to do with, with kind of like everything being cohesive right now.
Sure. What about live shows? Do you guys have anything planned?
Yeah, we got a bunch coming up.
Okay.
Yeah, just like some festivals and radio shows and different dates starting in August.
Exciting. Are you guys excited to get to play in front of people?
Oh,
maybe it's been a while.
Wait, it's kind of hitting at the right time where, so our drummer Matt just had a baby like a couple weeks ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Congratulations to him.
First
That's
baby.
Incredible.
You first band.
Oh, wow.
So it's good because he can now take the next couple months or like, basically like July to kind of chill and figure out how to be a father.
Sure.
It's obviously important. And then, yeah, like really beginning of August, we're going to have to start rehearsing because we got a bunch of shows and we're going to start kind of like going out there and hitting stuff.
That's incredible.
Yeah, man.
I love it.
I can't wait. I hope, I hope the Delta variant doesn't take us all out and we don't have to cancel any more shows.
Sure. Well, Zach, man, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it. You've been awesome.
No problem, man. Thank you for having me.
I do have one more question for you.
Yeah.
I know you've been kind of answering this throughout the whole course of this conversation, but do you have any advice for aspiring artists?
Yes. Keep working. You got to work hard, man. You got to put in the work. That's my main thing that I tell people. New artists that I'm working with, friends, anyone, I say you got to put in the work. Because if you don't want to put in the work, there's someone else out there who does. So it's like you got to stay on the grind no matter what that is. It's everything. You got to stay up on your social media. You got to play the shows. You got to write songs. And then the writing songs goes into the next thing. You got to be down to collab and try new things. It's not only the idea of keep writing, but it's keep writing in different ways and be open to working with new people who are going to test you and who are going to push you to try new things. Because straight up, if we were not in the room with Shep that day and he didn't push us to try something completely unheard of for our band especially, we never would have come up with our sound. It was that one day that changed it all. We had 1,000 songs that we were writing and none of them mattered because we ended up just coming up with that one in the moment that this person pushed us to do. So I think that's so important. When people say to me, they'll go, no, I don't need to try that because I know what my sound is. I don't need to try that. I don't need to do that. It's like, dude, if you're Drake, you might not need to, but it's like, other than that, you don't know. I don't know what my sound is tomorrow. It's like, cool, Nice and Easy's out today, but it's like, I could write something tomorrow that fully changes, just changes everything for me. Bring it back.